What's up, HyperFast agent? On this episode of the show, I sat down with a mortgage lender who started his career with a negative net worth, has now built it up to millions of dollars. Last year, he helped over 365 families get loans on their homes. He prides himself in putting out educational content and helping realtors and his clients teach people how to build their net worth. Welcome to the show, Shawn Kaplan. Welcome to the show today, Shawn. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Dan. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you on today, particularly with what's going on in the market and some of the struggles buyers are having with higher interest rates. And I know we're going to get into conversations that real estate agents should be thinking about having with their buyers, not just to get them to buy, because I think that's like a transactional way of thinking, but in order to really set them up for financial success down the road and long-term relationships. Before we jump into that great stuff, though, why don't you give our listeners and viewers a little bit of background on who you are, what you do, and how you got to where you are now.
Well, thanks, Dan. I appreciate you giving me a moment just to share. I always tell people I think I'm most qualified to help you because of where I came from. So I'll share a little bit of my story. I grew up with a single mother household. My dad passed away. He took his own life when I was pretty young. I was about 6 years old, and I had a 6-month-old sister. And nobody taught us about real estate or money. That was reserved for everybody else out there. And so as I grew up later in life, I ended up, saving up money, going to college, and I met a mortgage man 21 years ago, almost 22 years ago. And I was waiting tables. I got into mortgages here right outside Nashville, Tennessee, in a little town called Murfreesboro. I was going to MTSU. And I started doing loans under his mentorship. And Rob taught me to serve realtors and serve clients. He taught me to always, look at a mortgage as a part of the wealth building, whole strategy. And he said, I'll have clients for life. And so that's what I do. I consider myself a mortgage banker, a mortgage advisor. I'm not just a loan officer. A loan officer quotes rates. A mortgage advisor, I think, helps you build wealth and use mortgages to pay off debt and be wise with it. And I really enjoy doing that. It's my 21st year. I think I was just chatting with you. I think we helped around 365 families last year, which was amazing and a blessing here in Middle Tennessee. It's not that hard to sell a lot of houses and finance them. But now the market's changing and people are rattled and they're scared because of the news or whatever they're reading out there. And I don't like to go through these times, but it's definitely when I feel most useful because I love educating people and showing us that we do have a sun in the clouds that's parting in the distance if you have a right plan and a right strategy. But man, there's a lot of bad plans and bad strategies, or no plans and no strategies, and hopefully we could talk about that today.
Well, I love your background. I love how you consider yourself a mortgage advisor and that mortgages are a tool to build wealth. And I think that's an important thing to think about, particularly right now when some people have a bad taste in their mouth about mortgages because they went from 3 to 4 to 5 to 6, on the rates. And you really do have to think of it as a tool to build wealth. And one of the things I like to highlight, and I don't know if you're doing this as well, when you're talking to buyers or other agents, is you can't just look at the mortgage rate alone. I think you also have to look at what other asset classes are doing and what inflation is doing. Right? Because when mortgage rates were at 3% inflation, the reported inflation at least, which I don't believe, by the way, but the reported inflation was like 2%. Well,
yeah.
Right. So you're paying a point over inflation, right? If you look at kind of the real interest rate, the real cost of it, now you've got 9% inflation, 6% rate. So it's kind of like the banks are paying you to borrow money if you look at it in terms of where inflation is. I don't know if you've got any thoughts on that. I'd love to hear the lender's perspective on it, though.
So, I mean, look, let's be clear. Lenders were created to benefit the banks, to pay back interest for them to make money. They use your money and they go out and they lend to other people at larger, returns, right? So why do we not do that to the banks? So here's what I mean by that. We've been taught to not like debt, which debt is bad. The average car payment just hit $647. 13% of all car payments are over $1,000 a month right now. Car payments are crushing America. So I don't like car payments. I don't like credit cards. But what I do like is good debt. And I want as much good debt as I possibly can get. And good debt is real estate that I can leverage. So the problem is most Americans have either been taught it the wrong way, which is pay off all your debt. It's a bad thing. Put 20% down. Dave Ramsey's preached it for a long time, and that's their MO. Then there's the other side that, you don't have to put that much down and you want to keep more of your cash and you want to leverage that asset or that debt because you can go use it elsewhere and make way more than what the bank is charging you for it monthly. And when you take that leverage and you combine it with appreciation on a household expense that you have to pay one way or the other, it's really the secret formula to getting really wealthy. I mean, I'm an idiot and I've made a lot of money through real estate.
I can't agree with you more. I mean, the more good debt you have, the more good assets you can own with it, and the wealthier you're going to get. And we were talking about this before the show. I think the traditional, old school strategies or lessons or methodologies for retirement savings just aren't going to work. I think the average earner can't save enough, especially with, the things that are going on to devalue the dollar. Like, I don't think you can really save your way to retirement. You need a way to pour gasoline on it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And here's the thing, Dan, I just wrote this down because I wanted to share this with you. Do you think that a majority of Americans are on side A or side B when I say this? Their fear of loss is greater than their chance of gain. Most Americans' fear of loss is the greatest thing right now. They're not thinking about the chance of the gain. Here's what I mean by that. When you go ahead and you put $50,000 down on a piece of real estate, that's 10%, right? So a 10% down payment is $50,000. You could even do $25,000. You could do as little as $17,500, which is 3% down right now. But let's use $50,000 right now. And that house goes up 5% in a year, Dan, on $500,000. How much is that?
Yeah, that's 25 grand.
Right. And in 2 years, that's 50 grand. So you put 50 grand in, you got a house that you had to live in, you had to live somewhere, and you got 50 grand back after 2 years. That's 100% ROI, 100% return on your investment. Also, if I sell that house after 2 years and you end up turning around and listing it for me and I say, you know what, I want to sell this thing and get my hands on the cash that I've made on this property, how much in taxes do I have to pay if I live there for 2 years as my primary residence if I make a couple $100,000 on it?
Yeah, zero, because you have an exemption for the first $250,000 in gain, and if you're single, and $500,000 if you're married. I think, if I'm remembering.
Bingo.
That correctly. Yeah.
Bingo. And I'm in a 35% tax bracket, so that's a 35% automatic gain on my money right there. See, this is why I want to borrow myself to wealth. I've borrowed myself from negative $146,000 in credit cards to $3 million cash net worth. And I only say that to not to share dollars and brag, but it's to help people out there like me understand that, hey, I am like you. And I know what it was like to have a single mom, credit card debt mounting, tire blew on the car. Uh-oh, what are we going to do? Do I pay the car? Do I payment? Do I pay the rent? Or do I feed the family? And my mom was a grinder, and she made it happen, and she provided for us. But now later in life, what I realized, why do I not be the bank? Why don't I borrow the bank's money at 3, 4, 5, or even 6.5%, folks? Listen up, because I'm only going to rent that money I'm renting the money to buy the asset to make the money in appreciation and gain, tax deduction, and amortization pay down. And then I'm going to rent that money. And if that opportunity comes along to rent that money cheaper next year or the year after, I'm going to refinance the loan and save even more. But what I will not make is versus saving a couple $100 a month or a couple $1,000 a year in additional interest because rates went up, which I can't do nothing about. I will make $50 or $100 or $200,000 in equity gain on that property because real estate will not go down.
Well, I think it's interesting that you said rent the money, because I think the other thing that real estate agents, lenders should be talking about with buyers is the alternatives, right? Because everyone needs a place to live, and unless you're going to be in your parents' basement, you got to pay that. And rent increases the last few years have been even more dramatic in a lot of places than home prices. And they still are. And we have a shortage of rental properties that the building industry right now cannot overcome. The supply chain, the construction industry is just not there. So in your examples of, gaining this equity year over year, you also have to point out you are locking in your cost of living. You're not going to be hit with huge percentage increases. Like I know property managers right now that are getting 5 to 10% rental increases on renewals, and that's a big bite to chew if you're renting.
That's an adjustable rate mortgage.
Yeah.
That's what that is.
A 1-year arm.
And most people will not. Yeah, people would never take a 1-year arm. Yet they go out there and they rent. That's a great reminder, Dan, right there.
Hold that thought for a second. Are you a new real estate agent looking to jumpstart your career? Or perhaps you are an experienced agent looking to build and scale and get to the next level. If you are, I've got great news for you. After building and scaling multiple real estate businesses, I am now taking my real estate team to all 50 states. In fact, it's going to be international. I'm going to offer cutting-edge technology, training in lead generation, team building, investing, and additional opportunities to build revenue streams. If you are interested and want to learn more about this opportunity, send me a text message directly to my cell phone, 703-638-4393. Again, text me at 703-638-4393.
What would you tell the average realtor, lender right now out there that maybe the last couple of years was doing really well, kind of riding the wave and the high volume of transactions? Buyers, all they had to do really was show a buyer a house and write a contract and just hope the offer got picked, right? Because buyers are writing them because of FOMO, almost like the fear of missing out. And now that environment over the last 3, 4, 5 months or so has shifted on them. What do they need to do differently?
Great question. Really great question. So I just returned from an event in Las Vegas on Friday and Saturday, and I got to listen to and meet Gary Vee and Ed Milet. And I asked them, I was like, what's happening? What if I was in your company meeting, knowing what you know right now, like what would you tell your company, or what have you told your company over the last 30 days? I thought it was a pretty good question. I said, because everybody here is in real estate and mortgages. And he said, number one, we have to understand that the social media networks will dominate the next 10 years. There will be people that will choose to put content or lots of content out on their platforms, and there will be people that choose not to. Just like people choose to use it for good and some people choose to use it for bad. As a real estate agent, it is your duty and your obligation to give people an inside look into your life of who you are as a human being, as a person, what you like to do, where you like to go. Because if people know, like, and trust you, they will use you as your real estate agent. There's too many secret agents out there. Gary, that's what Gary said. He said, there's not enough info. Number two, I believe that realtors should show they really want to be a part of clients' life for a longer period of time if you want to be a real estate professional. And call your clients up and be transparent and say, hey, I'm not really that good at this Clients for Life program thing, but I know we're going through a lot of stuff right now. Are there any questions that are keeping you awake at night about real estate or finance or something? I can, get you any resources that may help you and your family out. Call them. Ask them who their professionals are that they use, their financial planner, CPA. Reach out to them, introduce yourself. Say, hey, I'm, Lesniak's professional realtor. I just helped him buy a home 3 months ago. I know you're their financial advisor. I want to reach out and introduce myself. That would probably be another great way to prospect, because those people are going to need referrals for great realtors. And I would say the third thing would be, we better get a lot better at video. I think I see too many agents, Dan, that just either are doing zero video, or they do it a little bit and they're not good at it, so they just quit. And you can't do that. You got to start now, because if you don't put content out, other realtors are. And, Betty Buttercup, who's brand new from last week, comes along, and if she has great marketing and great social media, Dan, she looks better than you on the internet. Like, somebody's going to say, that's the realtor I'm going to use, right? You could fake it till you make it almost in social media world right now. So you've got to put good content out. And I would love to engage with your followers if they'll, follow me on Instagram, the Shawn Kaplan, and I'll reconnect with you. And I try to put out content that I like, to see other people put out.
The social media, I think, has been one of the most fascinating things in the last few years in like tons of industries, but especially real estate. We all have that agent or multiple agents we know in our market that seems like they just came out of nowhere, right? And in a lot of cases, it's because they spent the time, the year or two of putting out videos and then, just getting better at it, right? Even if no one was watching them at first, they kept doing it, and all of a sudden they get that hockey stick, curve up in number of deals and, all of that. And it, in most cases where I've seen that, it's because they put the time into social media. They learned how to not just be a consumer on it, right, but how to be a producer on it. And I think social media is one of those things that is, a tool, right? It can be used for bad, like if you're just scrolling on it, killing time, not being productive, right? But it can also be used for good,
right,
like you said, like getting your message out, letting people see who you are, providing them with education, right? And doing all of this, by the way, without just coming on and, asking for business all the time.
Right. Think about like what you engage in and what you like. Find something that you're passionate about and just put a lot of energy behind it. So I'm building a house right now. I'm super passionate about that. People love to see the pictures of the farmhouse that we're building, here in Tennessee. I love French bulldogs. Some people don't, a lot of people do. When I put them up, people want to connect with me. That's all stuff that doesn't say mortgage, but, and the other thing is, like, if you really want to get to know your audience, then we should be asking them questions, like put questions up in your stories instead of just, hey, here's my latest listing or another one pended, like, unfortunately, I hate to hurt anybody's feelings, but none of the client base wants to see that or hear about that right now. What they want to know is, how do I get out of debt? How do I build wealth? How do I avoid this recession? What should I do to prepare for the recession? What are some things that'll save me money around my house? Where are some places in town I should be going? Business partner interviews are great. You've done those, Dan. We're doing one right now. But like agents, go and interview a business person out there in the community one day a week and put them on, ask one question of that business owner, 60 seconds or less, and put it on your Instagram story. Things like that.
So
we've got to make sure that we go ahead and in a changing world, we can't do the same thing. Winston Churchill says this. He says, never let a good crisis go wasted, right? Like, whatever's going on right now, let's use it wisely. By the way, like investing in yourself or going to a seminar or doing something new like this, like I don't do a lot of podcasts, but it stretches you. And what ends up happening is like, you'll end up putting yourself in opportunities that'll take you to different places in your business and in your personal life. So try new things right now. Invest in yourself. It's one of the greatest forms of self-love that you can, show yourself.
We've talked about a number of things that people should be doing or doing more of in this market. Let's flip that question. Are there things that you think agents, lenders should stop doing or do less of?
Yeah, I mean, There's some things I think that we did in the past that don't have as much effectiveness. Like, I don't know about you, Dan. I'm not a big fan of farming. Unless you come to me and you say, hey, I've got a specific community that I live, work, and play in, and I'm committed to doing this farming campaign for 2 years, 24 months in a row, and I've got the money up front already set aside, then I tell people, I don't think you're prepared to do the farming. That's just my personal opinion, because it doesn't get the results that most people want. The other thing is, I come from the generation, I don't know what you coach and teach, but we come from the generation of, call 100 people a day and you're going to get some business, right? Well, I'm not a big fan of that. I'm more of let's be more effective. Instead of me sitting here calling 50 strangers, I'd rather spend a half an hour with you on this podcast that might, reach, 100,000 people, right? And I think it can also hurt your psyche to just sit and cold call all day long. Now, look, some people are made for it. And then you also have to start your career and you have to learn how to make phone calls. But if you're able to get out there in the community and meet people, and you're able to put up some good social media content and get, 30, 40 leads a month and get 5 to 10 shots a month and, do that, that's a great real estate business to me. Yeah. And I think it's more rewarding.
I like the idea of doing less of the things that don't work as well or aren't as efficient. Like, yes, you should be on the phone, but who are you calling, right? Are you calling people that already like, know, and trust you because you've spent the time on social media and other places, like building that trust, right? Or are you just calling people that have never heard of you? And both can work, but one's gonna, get you more dollars per your time. And the same goes with farming. It can still work, but at a cost that's much greater than if you put out good social media or do digital marketing.
I've really enjoyed the social media side too for the educational purposes. I just had a real good agent in here having lunch with me. And, that's the other thing too, folks, like mastermind more. Go have lunch at people's offices, have coffees, call your lenders, title companies, go, what are you seeing? What are you hearing? Ask lots of questions. But going back to that, what she was talking about when she was over here was, Instagram, me and her met through Instagram. And I said, what is it about that? She goes, well, you almost feel like you know each other through social media. So then when you start a conversation, it goes directly to that person. You wouldn't stand in front of somebody and start talking to them and not respond, right? So agents, start looking at being wiser with our time and more efficient, and try using your Instagram to connect with some business people and builders, HR people around town. Find out who it is, search, follow, and educate yourself on the things that they're showing.
Hold that thought for a second. Did you know I've been involved in developing and building hundreds of homes? And did you know that we take partner investors in our deals? If you want to learn about new opportunities that we have for real estate investors, go to my Instagram account, it's @Lesniak, and send me a direct message. Again, if you want to learn about my next opportunities for real estate investor partners, go to my Instagram at @Lesniak and send me a direct message.
One thing I want to make sure I give you a chance to hit on before we do our HyperFast, Q&A round and wrap up here. Real quick, describe the rate buy down tools and how you're kind of using that to position sellers to attract buyers without necessarily doing huge price cuts. Because I think that's an interesting tool.
Sure. All right, cool. I'll open up this screen. Tell me if you can see it. How's that?
All right, I've got it up. I can see it.
Okay.
Yep.
So let's say, Dan, you walked into a subdivision and a builder had a property for $449,000, right? Well, you're immediately thinking, hey, the market, I think it's gotten soft, or there's a bubble, or whatever all the other garbage is that we hear all the time, but it is what it is. But they say, I think I'm just going to go in and maybe offer $435 for the house, right? Last column. So if you did that, well, around today, putting 10% down, you're going to have a mortgage payment probably around $2,315, principal and interest. But what this illustration does, Dan, is it's showing people what I was talking about in the beginning of our conversation, which is let's be smart with our money. Let's make money matter. Let's make sure creative financing, which is going to be the wave of the future, by the way, that you understand how to leverage and use financing to your ability to get really, really rich and save as much money as possible. So here's an example of it. I don't want you to ask for $435. I don't want you to ask for a price reduction on the house. What I would rather you end up doing is, one, you could use the money and ask the builder for some closing cost assistance, which we could use to buy the interest rate down. And that's going to make your mortgage payment, you're looking at about $131 better. Can you see that?
Yep.
Now, what I would rather you do is my strategy. And I'm doing this with builders too, because this keeps purchase prices high. It helps out the buyer get a much better payment. It helps out the realtor that their list to sale ratio stays high. And it helps the community to make sure prices stay high instead of people running scared and just starting to throw up a for sale sign or give people, money off. Leave the purchase price at $449. And we're going to do a 2-to-1 fixed rate buy down, which means you'll have a 3.375% interest rate for the first year. The second year, it'll go to 4.375, and the remaining 28 years fixed will be 5.375. So it's a 5.375% loan, but you get a discount for the first 2 years. And look how much right here that you save per month. $502.80 per month. And over in the far right column, you'll notice, as indicated, it's going to end up saving you just over the first 5 years, $22,000 in interest. This, folks, is what you have to do instead of just getting onto rocketmortgage.com or walking into your bank, because that's where you bank. You need a mortgage advisor, not a loan officer, because it's going to cost you $22,000 by taking somebody's advice that doesn't know what they're talking about. So sorry to be harsh, super passionate about this, because I think there's a lot of unqualified people in my business that don't talk about money to people because they don't have any money, or they haven't been good with their money, or haven't built any wealth. So therefore, they're not really in the proper place to advise people. And I know I am, because I came from negative to positive. So I can help folks.
Well, I think this is a great tool, and it's certainly one, if you're an agent, you need to figure out how to offer and find a lender that does, if you don't have any, and then start having these conversations with your buyers. Now, I know we're almost out of time. I always end with a HyperFast round, if you are ready for a couple rapid fire questions and answers.
Let's do it.
All right. What's your biggest piece of advice to a new real estate agent?
Be diligent and consistent in all that you do.
What is the biggest mistake that experienced real estate agents make?
Thinking that they can outsource everything. They get enough money and they start hiring everything out. And then what ends up happening is people feel that they've lost connection and relationship with you as an actual agent in person.
What's something that you are doing in your business today that you were not doing a year ago?
I began working on YouTube Shorts. YouTube Shorts will probably be the number one in the used, because it's the number 2 search engine, and all the kids are on it right now. My kids are, and it's categorizable, and you can make libraries out of it. So you have history behind it, besides like where TikTok and Instagram don't.
All right, last question. Where do you see yourself 10 years from now?
Man. So 10 years from now, I hope to have our farmhouse here in Tennessee hosting folks, giving them a refuge for, some things that we'd like to do in our ministry, and have that property paid off. Probably I'd like to have 10 million cash net worth, which will allow me to retire comfortably. I'd like to have a place in the Smoky Mountains. And I'd like to see my daughters married, and, hopefully maybe by then, or going to college. That's a little early. Going to college.
All right, Shawn, thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah, Dan.
And great insights. If people want to connect with you, talk real estate, mortgage, or just follow you on social media, how should they connect?
Best thing to do is just go straight to my Instagram profile, the Shawn Kaplan. I'm sure you'll throw it up there. We'll have it. And And then you'll see my link tree in my bio, and it's got every link that you need. I offer a lot of great newsletters. You can get a weekly video newsletter from me. And I do a lot of online classes, and you're welcome to come to any of that stuff, even if you're not in Tennessee. I'm licensed in 27 states, but I always like to help folks out.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today, Shawn. To all of our listeners and viewers out there, thank you for tuning in. Please share this episode with other people that you think would benefit from learning as well. We will see you next time. Real estate agents, I have built out a group in all 50 states, in many different countries as well, and I'm looking for people that want to partner with me and get the benefit of not one, but 2 nationally recognized coaching programs to help grow your business. If you are ready to join me at EXP or want to learn more information about it, I would be honored if you would send me a text message at 703-638-4393. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure and go to hyperfastagent.com to learn about upcoming in-person and online events. And don't forget to share this show with someone that you think could benefit from hearing it, and make sure you subscribe on YouTube or anywhere that you can find podcasts.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the HyperFast Show. Subscribe to us if you want to make sure you get the latest and greatest HyperFast shows. And remember, we love reviews. Reviews help us bring better and better guests and improve our shows. So give us the good, the bad, and the ugly. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we will see you next time.
Hey guys, thanks for sticking around to the end. I hope you enjoyed that video, and if you want to see more, click right here. And if you want 100 real estate tips from my best-selling book, click right here to download them instantly. And if you're new to this channel, click below to subscribe.